Jenny with On Fire Fit, and welcome to another episode of High Heel Hallelujah. Today I am talking about discipline and how you can apply parenting styles to discipline in your life. And it might get very specific about your body, but it could apply to all different areas of your life. But first, let's look at the shoes. These Mary Jane shoes should make you think of childhood, hopefully. I was wearing these at work today, and it occurred to me when I was going to make this video that they are actually appropriate for the topic at hand. So yeah, they're kind of a upgraded version of a Mary Jane shoe. These I did buy for myself. Shock of all shocks. I remember shortly after my daughter was born and she started crawling that I had to make a decision on how I was going to discipline. And of course, there are a lot of different schools of thought in this area. But one of the things that I determined, along with my husband, who thankfully is on board with me in the same way, and we talked a lot about this, but one of the things that I thought was really important was to put the work in when they're young to create discipline so that in the long run, it was easier for us and we weren't fighting every day with attitudes and various issues. And I had heard from other parents that had gone before me that if you don't deal with the issues when they're 2, it's going to come up when they're 12 and 22 and on. So basically, whatever it is that you're dealing with that child at that young age, you're going to have to keep revisiting it if you don't get a handle on it when they're younger. And it occurred to me today that it is so similar to how we have to learn to discipline ourselves. Now, you know that I coach people in health, and one of the areas that is always a difficult area is discipline. We start off with really good intentions, we're really motivated and excited, but usually a week or 2 in, the feelings start to well up that maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Why did I really want to do that after all? I would rather just go out to eat and have whatever I want, and I really do kind of want to lose weight, but yet I really don't want to have to make the sacrifices that it's going to take to get to that point. Well, I hope that this thought process will help you connect and build that bridge from what you want, what you feel you want to achieve, and the ability for you to actually get there. That is the hardest thing that I find, is that we have desires that we want, but we just don't want to take the steps that it's going to take to get there. And so we end up revisiting things just like that 2-year-old, 12-year-old, 22-year-old. We keep revisiting the same issue over and over and over, instead of saying, you know what, I'm in this moment right now. I'm going to deal with this now so that in the long run, I'm not going to be fighting this all the time. I'm not going to be in a battle every single day. So let me take you back to my parenting again. So I had friends that would baby-proof the house out of control, right? So that every corner had padding on it, everything had locks on it, everything had plugs in it and everything. Now, I did keep certain things, like in my daughter's bedroom, we kept the little plugs in the electrical outlets. Certain things that I really knew, okay, this is going to be a bad deal if this ends up being exposed and she gets hurt by that. But I didn't go around and baby-proof every little thing in the house, because I felt that it was more important for me to discipline her at this stage, not only so that I don't have to keep battling it, but because so when I would go into other people's homes that are not baby-proofed, She would quickly know what was off limits. She would understand no. She would understand the areas that she was not allowed to touch. And it would be a habit for her to not only have a good ear for me telling her what she can and can't do, but also so that she got a grip on where her boundaries were. And this was really important to me when she was young, because I knew otherwise every time we were in a new situation, it was going to be this battle again and again. And I didn't want to have to go through that. So what did it take as a parent to deal with that when she was 2? It took a lot of hard work. It took diligence. It took focus. I had to put all my energy into that little girl and what I was trying to achieve. But I always had that long-term goal in mind, that this is going to make it easier for me in the long run. I am sure you know where I am going with this, because it is the same with us in so many areas, whether I am, of course, in my mind, thinking about people with their health. But this could apply to, for instance, if you had a business idea, you had a business plan that you wanted to really get going with, but you just don't feel the discipline now in order to get there. These same principles apply, but I'm going to kind of use food and our health as the example, since that's what On Fire Fit is based on for the most part. So when we are thinking in terms of that long-term goal of weight loss, I think we have to realize that in this moment, it's going to take all of our focus. It's going to take a lot of discipline. It's not going to feel good at this moment, but in the long run, we're going to see the benefit of it, and we won't keep struggling with it over and over and over again, because we've learned how to deal with it now. And on top of all of that, you are going to be in different situations all the time. There are always going to be birthdays and holidays and restaurants for you to be challenged by. But you should be able to go into all of those situations with a plan and with the focus on the habits that you've already created during this time when you are getting more and more used to being disciplined. And I'm not saying that you can't go and enjoy some cake. I'm not saying that you can't go and enjoy some wine. But I think that what ends up happening is we feel that we never have the perfect time in order to get healthy, because there's all these other things that are always coming up. It's always Christmas, or it's Girl Scout cookie season, or it's somebody's birthday. And so it's just not a good time for that. But there's never a good time for discipline. So we have to choose now, and we have to start building in those habits. So as you go through each and every day, the more that you are disciplined and learning what it feels like to live within those healthy boundaries, the easier it's going to be for you to be in situations where it is somebody's birthday or you have a holiday. And yeah, you can have a little bit of something as a treat, and it doesn't undo you for weeks on end. Just because Christmas came and you had a glass of wine doesn't mean that now all my diet habits are out the window and I just have a free-for-all for the next 3 months. So the idea is that the more that you have learned how to live within those boundaries, the easier it's going to be for you to go out and take the occasional sip of wine or bites of cake, or maybe you try it. Maybe you've tried the cake and you're like, you know what, it doesn't even taste that great to me. I know I can have it some other time, and so I'm just not even going to eat any more of it. Rather than getting into this mindset that you have to be so disciplined and then go completely off the rails because you've been so restrictive. So keep the focus, build the habits, and then learn how to discipline yourself now. Don't wait, because you're just going to keep struggling with it over and over and over. One of the other things that we always laugh about is my son. When he came along we have all kinds of stories, but he was very strong in that he would like certain things when we went to the store. If you are a parent, I'm sure that you can understand what I'm talking about here. But he would beg and beg. And I got to this point. Now, he was my second born. So in some regards, I didn't have full attention on him. And because of that, his discipline, I feel, took a little bit longer because I was not as focused on it. I was also managing our daughter, and so I realized at one point when we were in the grocery store that he was balking about something, that I had given him a warning that if he didn't quit what he was doing, we were gonna leave the store basket full of all this stuff, and a lot of those things in that basket were things he had asked for in a nice way. Now he had gotten to the point where he was over the edge, and I warned him. And I learned very early on in my parenting that once you warn something, you don't keep giving warnings, because kids will continue to learn from how you don't follow through, and they will continue to pester you when you are not firm on your word of what you've said is going to happen. So if I warn about something, that means it is going to happen. And sometimes I've screwed myself up by doing that, and this would be one of those situations, but you have to follow through. So I had given him the warning, we were going to leave with this full basket, left in the store if you don't quit. And he went one more time. And we walked out of the store. I apologized to the workers, handed them the basket, and said, I cannot check out with this basket because of my son's misbehavior. And out the door we went. He was so shocked that it never happened again. So, point for you with discipline is when you have resolved something, you need to follow through. We do not like to break promises with ourselves. And in our subconscious, every time we do that, and we say, this time I'm really going to do it, and then we don't do it, we kind of edge out our own wisdom, our own ability to stay disciplined. So it's very important that we follow through so that we start to trust ourselves and believe that this is something that we can actually do because we have set our minds on it. And of course, you know, my power, everything comes from the Lord. I had this thought that there's a Bible verse, spare the rod, spoil the child. And it made me think, now when they talked about this in the Bible, spare the rod, spoil the child, I know that a lot of people think that that means that you're supposed to be spanking your kids with a stick, spare the rod. In actuality, it's more of a term of shepherding. So the shepherd would use a rod to guide the sheep and to try to keep them within the boundaries of what was safe for them. And from the things that I have read regarding that Bible verse, it's not necessarily to hit, but it is to guide. Okay, so I am of the mindset that when we don't allow ourselves to have those boundaries, to have that rod that guides us, that we spoil ourselves and it creates a problem. So in this case, not to be off biblical truth, I'm going to say, if you spare the rod, you spoil your bod. I know it's not really biblical, but it is of those principles. And so if you spare the rod and you don't allow yourself to live within those boundaries and let your shepherd guide you and keep you on the right path, spoil the bod and then we pay for it. So I hope that that helps for you today. If you are not a parent, you probably can remember back to when you were a child. So I hope that it still makes sense to you. I would love to hear your stories of parenting and how they might apply to this principle as well. Anyway, I hope you have a great day and go out and live that life on fire.